Welcome to the first panel discussion of this packaging summit organized by CII. This is also an occasion to celebrate the spirit of mankind to rise up against the disaster caused by the pandemic and adjusting to new normal. My name is Vishnu Puranik. I am Director of Engineering at Clearpack Group. I am the moderator for this session. I am quite excited to be part of this. I thank CII for this opportunity. We have a most relevant topic for discussion. That is smart technologies, automation, and digitization packaging. World is passing through difficult times, and this pandemic has affected everyone on this planet. Even the packaging industry is not spared. Business continuity has become critical for most of the companies. This has made automation more relevant, and I think there is no better time to discuss about this than now. The reason for automation has gone beyond just labor saving. Like many other things, even packaging is also getting smarter. The expectation from packaging has gone beyond just product protection and transportation. They are getting more personal, interactive. Thanks to internet revolution, consumer wants to know everything about the product before he buys it. Be it contents or date of expiry, or even they want to know who all handled the product before it reached their hand. Hence, the smart packaging started to evolve. So what is smart packaging? This is nothing but a bridge between a physical world and the digital world. It is where components have been added in the packaging material or packaging headspace in order to improve the performance of the packaging system. This offers great advantage in terms of increased shelf life, reduced counterfeiting, and improved safety. Another interesting development we see is in terms of virtual and augmented reality, and it is making deep inroad into packaging line operations. This has opened up tremendous opportunity for machine builders to serve their customers in different ways. Technology leaders are also working on a concept called dark factories, where perhaps you can imagine a production line with all the lights switched off and everything is running in automatic, and the packaging material or the raw material being fed at one side and you get the finished product from the other side. So with this introduction, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Anil Bhatia, to open his address. Anil Bhatia is a Vice President and Managing Director of Emerson Automation's India business since February 2017, based at Mumbai. In his current role, Anil drives growth for multiple business groups, focusing on providing process automation solution across industries with major focus on digitization. Anil began his career with Emerson in 1995 and moved to several international assignments, including Dubai, Austin, Texas, USA, and Kingdom. He relocated back to India in 2005, moved into senior project management and operation leadership role. After 5 years, Anil took over the power and water business in India. In 2015, Anil then moved out to run power business operations for complete Asia Pacific operation for Mumbai. Anil is currently the strategic advisory board of many prestigious institutions like IIT, Washington University, etc. Anil is a regular speaker on digital transformation and process automation in various industrial forums and has published several technical articles on this topic. Join me in welcoming Mr. Anil Bhatia for his remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vishnu. And it is absolutely an honor and privilege to be, talking to this forum. I think the topic and the subject is very apt in the current environment. And I want to thank CII really for organizing this and inviting me to speak in this forum. What I have done is, I have put few slides for this team so that, we can kind of look at it. So I will just go through it quickly. And you please let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Mr. Anil, we can see your screen now.
Good. So, Ms. Vishnu, you already, as you touched upon, I think the COVID, this is unprecedented, year for the humankind. I mean, the COVID has really changed the way we do things. Do things that somebody rightly said, Mr. Bhatia, that normally for this kind of session, you would all been traveling and getting into this hall and making sure things are starting at time, and we would have never been able to start on time. But today everything is getting started out on time. So obviously COVID is a major lesson learned for all of us. And the way I see, I think for the packaging, this will also have a very big positive impact as we move toward the new normal. We will see more and more need from the market to get more packaged products, more kind of safe packaged products, no leakage, no contamination. So I think that is where COVID offers a great opportunity. And as I think many leaders already touched, it is an industry which is going to grow. So I will not go about much. What I am going to basically, trying to talk about today is, how Emerson, can support in these areas, and which are the areas we are looking at. I think most of you on this site may know Emerson, in this meeting may know Emerson, but Emerson is a global, conglomerate in automation. There is a noise coming, Mr. Vishnu, from your background noise. Yeah. So, and and Emerson is a global conglomerate. Obviously, we are leaders in automation, and in the packaging front too, we have a lot of innovative solutions. And I was very happy to hear various leaders speaking about the drive for innovation and technology in this segment. I loved, Vishnu, your statement around dark, or dark automation. So you can switch off everything and still the whole thing system works. So truly appreciate. And I think what I will be trying to kind of cover at a very high level today on these four aspects, which are very important, I feel, in the field of packaging. Obviously, productivity, production, and that is where digital transformation and smart packaging will play a very big role for the whole business to remain competitive. Sustainability, again, very important for us to remain sustainable in this market. So the key is waste, scrappage normally have a negative impact and thus result in a in our business getting into a negative side. Safety, I think many of the leaders in the first session talked about it. So I'm so glad that safety has been really taken very seriously and strongly in this segment. And finally, the variability, where if you are not having things repeatable in nature in this packaging industry, obviously you will really have a lot of performance issues in this business. So overall, I think as a digital transformation, we'll have to implement this in the packaging industry, and I'm glad that the leaders are kind of acknowledging that, basically to respond to customer demand, reduce operational losses, and finally drive profitability. So I think with this kind of backdrop on the top, I'll just quickly, very quickly cover some of the solutions Emerson has in this space, where, for example, when we talk about increased productivity, first, when you say about increased productivity, the key important, of course, is to measure the right thing and fill the right things. And Emerson's micromotion technology, we have given in some of the many places in India today, and it is continue. We are seeing continue, although the cost initially may look a little bit higher, but the overall benefits where you get is just enormous by deploying a very precision measurement technology. So this is one of the technology we have. And then, of course, on the PLC side, obviously with the edge controllers, what we are having in the market now, I think this will really change the way the whole PLC automation is deployed, along with IoT and SCADA. And very importantly, plant wave optics. This is our our showcase platform where basically, as we talked about the AR, VR, and the overall kind of persona-based alerts which we offer, every individual, at a every different level will be able to get digital diagnostics, messages as per the need of the individual. So if a maintenance manager may get a different alert than a CEO, and I think this is something which we will really be showcasing more and more as we kind of talk to the leadership in this industry. So this is around digital solution around productivity, production, and we will be more than happy to take more questions from you, and not only today but even moving forward, and come and talk to your teams on how this can benefit the packaging industry. Second thing is around sustainability. I think that is the key. I mean, if we don't, don't control our leakages and all the negative aspects of any packaging, we will never be able to successful. So, for example, we have a laser-based leak detection system. Like today, when you are having, the cans going through a line, we really cannot afford to remain in the old technology where you use old technology to measure leakages on the every component going out, and that is where we have our kind of a cascade. We call it cascade. It is a laser based leak detection system, very very interesting technology. Then we have our our overall ultrasonic packing. Again, many leaders talked about contamination. I think today the older technology we talked about heat based sealing and packing. But moving forward, ultrasonics is going to take over, and this is the most efficient and least contaminating way to do the packaging. Again, this is a very very interesting technology which is getting deployed. We have been talking to this industry globally. We have many install base, and we look forward to in India. And again, most importantly, about the underfills and overfills, and using the right technology for a measurement on what you are actually packing. So again, very very important from a sustainability perspective, and some of the technologies which we can obviously talk more in today's session or even as we move forward. Another important, very very important is safety. I think we all understand the importance of safety, and very very important to Emerson has a very very strong play here in safety, which includes our overall cylinders in the Aventics, which is the company we acquired, or our PLC with IoT functionality. And also, if we can eliminate heat, see, for example, we today use a lot of heating for sealing, and again that is a safety hazard. But as if you deploy these ultrasonic welding systems, I think we really are able to avoid the source of safety incidents. So again, reduce the risk and protect your asset without impacting productivity. Again, an important aspect, and Emerson, we play a lot in this area. And finally, it is all about reliability. The more reliable solutions you have, the more efficient and productive we will be. And I talked about few things already. Like predictive diagnostics to have machine performance will be the key as we move forward. And it will be everybody, but a CEO will expect everything on his handheld as to what is happening in his overall packaging line. So again, a lot of solutions and technology available in this space, and we will, I'm sure, as we move forward, this industry will embrace these technologies. So obviously, I have limited time. I will be, I got 10 to 15 minutes, and I have to cover that. So I will move forward, and just wanted to say how we will be connecting to you all, and how we can kind of help. The most important part is we don't any digital transformation or automation should derive from needs and outcomes, and not just a checkbox on we did apply digital transformation. So we would like to understand and then create a roadmap, and then make sure that how the investments can be give you the required payback. So any digital transformation technology should have a defined payback, and that is where we would be more than happy to help as we move forward on this industry. And Emerson has the full breadth. I think you all know we are the number one when it comes to automation globally. Many kind of industry bodies have published that. So we will be more than happy to interface with this segment. And finally, my last chart, just from a perspective of giving about our Emerson's brand. We have in the pneumatics, we have Esco and Aventics as a brand. Material joining is Branson. Machine automation is PLC. Instrumentation is Micromotion, and leak detection is Cascade. These are the solutions which are available in our platform. And as somebody said, we have to move beyond product and offer a full solution. As we can see, you will be able to get a complete solution at with one partner. So with that, I would also like to conclude that our marketing lead Poonam Parma, she's in the call. Her email is given below. will be more than happy to connect with this team. And I really look forward to a very, very engaging, session of the, where I see very many esteemed panelists in this session. I really look forward to hearing and learning more from this session. So thanks, Vishnu. That is it from me.
Thank you, Mr. Anil Bhatia. I think that was quite informative, and I think you also explained about how digitization can also help in terms of sustainability and different technologies and products available in the market, which probably can be used very effectively in implementing the digitization, at the same time also helping the cause of sustainability. Perhaps we can keep some questions probably end of this session, so we can probably move to our next panelist. Basically the first panelist of the day. I would like to welcome our first panelist, Mr. Gopal Bhandari. So let me just give a brief of Mr. Gopal Bhandari. Mr. Gopal is an alumni of BITS Pilani and has over more than 40 years of experience in packaging industry. Mr. Gopal has accomplished record in implementing new technologies in packaging industry. Having spent initial years in his career designing electronic circuitry, Mr. Gopal also moved into sales and service of packaging machines. With his great knowledge in packaging field, he also co-founded a machine manufacturing company to manufacture and sell packaging machines to FMCG industry. Being a subject matter expert, Mr. Gopal had also involved himself in various turnkey projects, right from concept to commissioning. Mr. Gopal recently formed a new company to develop tools for digitization and OE improvements solutions. He's a Singapore citizen, a fitness freak, and loves Indian music, and most of the time he spends in India. Mr. Gopal, screen is yours. Please take on.
Thank you so much, Vishnu, and really nice to hear some good words about me. Hopefully I could be as good in this presentation. And is it possible for me to share my screen, because I'm not able to share? The share button is not working.
I think you should have a provision to share. Rahul,
can you help me?
Rahul, can we, because even I see the share button is not enabled. My screen.
Enabled. Okay.
You will get it.
Okay. Yeah, you should have.
Yeah. So hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes, Mr. Gopal, yeah, we can see your screen now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so my my presentation is about Industry 4.0 solution in the industry or in the business. And if we briefly look at it, this is how Industry 4.0 is. Now, if we divide our business, we can divide into two segments. One is the front end, the second is the back end. Now, front end is the one which has really moved with the technology. Like for example, the sales or advertising or customer feedback, all that has taken off and has gone to a different level. Like we have e-commerce, we are able to sell it to our website. We have a customer feedback that is possible through the QR code, and so and so. Whereas when it comes to the back end, which is really the backbone, it is lagging far, far behind. And if a comparison that comes to my mind is like in a country, you have cities and you have villages. Front end, which is sales and all that, is like cities, and the back end is like village, where there is hardly any infrastructure. I've seen this industry for a long time, and I find that there is hardly any change in the last 20 years, except that now the production speeds have gone up from say 40, 50 a minute to 400 a minute. And the PLC is better and the HMIs are better. But other than that it has not adapted to the technology. So this segment of mine is really going to make you prompt that how this segment can help you. Now, let's dig more into this and let us see what are the assets that we have in our factory which we can connect or which we can digitize.
Yeah.
We have machines here which can be connected. We have processes like, mixing or tanks or temperature. Those can be connected. Then we have warehouse, which can be connected, or forklifts. And then we have cameras, CC cameras. And in fact, in today's environment, CC cameras are very relevant because you don't want to have people in close contact as far as possible. So those are very relevant and important, and those can be digitized as well. Now, I have forgotten something here, which I have not shown here, and that is energy meters or utilities. And that is equally important. So all this can be digitized and brought to a digital platform. Now, I'm going to now further go into the factories. Now, presently, this is how the information flow is. That is, you have different factories, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. They communicate with ERP through a person. That means whatever is happening on the shop floor is finally keyed in manually into the ERP, and that information then goes to the corporate level, where you are able to see the OE and capacity utilization and all that. Now, those figures are absolutely right. I mean, there is no doubt about that. But what is missing currently is that the losses, you are not able to see. There is a big loss here, but where is it associated with? Is it associated with availability? Is it associated with quality or performance? That part is missing currently. And this is what we are going to see further in my slides. Now, after you do the digitization, that is digitization of your factory, that information from your plant shop floor goes directly into your ERP, where all the losses are captured. And then on corporate level, you could then see that you have availability lost more in some particular factory. Why is that so? The discussions are at a different level now. So this is what one of the important factors of digitization. Now, how does the digitization occurs? Now, you have different PLCs on the shop floor, which is Siemens, Allen Bradley, or other PLC. And most of the time that we have come across, there are no PLCs. These are legacy machines. Now, we have edge controllers, which we can put on the legacy machine and connect and get all these different protocols. Like, we are able to communicate in about 100 protocols, get them on the gateway, and then send them either on the on-premise or on cloud solution. And we'll see further what happens. Once we have this information, what happens? Now, currently, when you have all that information flown in from the machines, now this is how the stoppage looks. Now, before this, if you see a typical report on a shop floor, the report will consist, okay, every hourly production, or these are the stoppages, which talks in hours. Now here, every second counts. If you see here, this is a typical line that is digitized, and you can see here that every second is counted. I think this is from 3 o'clock until 11 o'clock in the night. And I've expanded the first one. And as you can see, there are in this 1 hour, there are more than 20 stoppages in this 1 hour. So that is what is captured to this digitization. And each of these stoppage is categorized, so you know that it is because of the fault, it is because of the waiting, it is because of the speed loss, it is because the machine was idle, all that. Let's go to the next one. Now, all this information that we have captured is then finally condensed into the reports for you. So for example, here is a daily report. Now, in this report, you see that how is your day actually worked? What are the top stoppages that you're in the bifurcated categories? On the bottom side, we have a summary of that month. So I have total number of hours here, and then the planned hours, the gross operating hours, and I can see the losses which have occurred in a segment wise. And since the basis for the information is every second, where we know that each of those losses, if I want to drill down further, then I could just click on this information and drill down. Let's go to the next one. Now here we have operator-wise speed losses or idle time. And this is something, which helps you improve the performance of the operator. And this is, how the data, those have been captured, like based on the batch or SKU or date, shift, operator-wise, all that information is here. The production, the OE, availability, performance, quality, everything is over here. The basis for this. Now, so, I mean, what I've shown you so far is that there is digitization can really help you. And I have got many more slides to convince you further, but I think that is not necessary. What is necessary for you to see is that currently where you are, currently you see only a white light. That is a loss, that's all. Now with the smart solution, which acts like a prism, you see the different spectrum of that OE loss. So you see in speed loss, in terms of idle, in terms of weight, in terms of fault, block, reject, all those losses are separated for you to get a clear view. So this is what the system does. Now, I think I have, made my point clear in terms of digitization, the need for it. And when I talk to many people, they of course don't tell me this, but I can feel that they say that, look, I'm in this industry for 20 years. What are you going to tell me that I don't know? I mean, is that possible? And the only analogy that comes to my mind is that if someone is in a semi-dark room, what happens? You of course, when you walk around, you fall, come into object, you don't know everything, your speed is slowed down. But if you lit up this whole room properly, then you see all the stoppages, you see every obstacle that you have. And this is what the smart solution, or for that matter, not necessary with us, any other solution that you choose would help you do that. Now, having done this, now what are the reasons why one doesn't go ahead with these solution? Some of the questions that I came across is like, I have legacy machines. Now, if I have legacy machines, the data will not come from these machines. And as I've explained you that it is possible to connect even the legacy machines, and that is not a bottleneck. And whether you have legacy machine, whether you have machines working on Allen Bradley, or your machine working on Siemens, or on Mitsubishi, is all okay. I mean, it's possible to connect with this talk in the protocol that they have. The next is the solution is expensive and not sure of the payback. I think it's something which I've heard from many customers. What I can tell you is that you are, without paying for it, you are actually paying. It's like a tap that is the typical OEE in the industry is between 50% to 60%. That means 40% is actually is like tap which is open all the time, and it is wasted. The resources are wasted. The same thing here. You are, without paying for it, you are actually paying for it. And most of the time we have seen that this payback is 2 weeks, 4 weeks. We are talking in weeks, not even in months. Another thing, I mean, this, nobody tells that, okay, I don't want to expose my weakness to my bosses or my higher level, if I have all this, digitization. Now, to that, my suggestion is, what I say is that it's like traveling in a desert where you don't have a compass, and then you obviously are not going to reach in optimum time. The same thing happens here. If you don't have the right tool, you might survive here, but not in the long term. So sooner or later, this will occur, and I think it's better to adapt the technology that is available right now. And last is long-term project, and no push from top, so cannot spend time. And yeah, that is, I mean, something, if it is long-term. But this project is not really a long-term, and this project can be achieved in about 4 weeks, 6 weeks. We are not talking a very long-term. And the second is that being smart factory, and which is a part of Clearpack, has spent 30 years in automation. So our USP is that we have experience in knowing the data. So if we know your pain points, then we know where to get the data, and then we can provide the right solution, or the solution we can adapt to your conditions. So that's it. And coming back to this automation, my next segment is about automation. That is, we have the robotic case packers, which is Delta, Industrial Robots, Cooperative, which can erect, fill, as well as seal it. So these are some of the automation we have. We have robotic palletizers, so which can handle different lines, handle the pallets, empty pallets, feed the empty pallets, have the right pattern, layer pad, and then finally send out the pallets. And we have AGVs as well. So as you see here, our group has got automation solution, which is our backbone, as well as solution where we help you to digitize your factory, your machinery, plant machinery. So I think you just this is my name, my email address here. Contact me. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can just, or I think it's contact us, and then we'll be able to help you how to digitize, how to automate, and make your factory, your operations efficient. So that brings to the end of my session. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandari. I think that was very insightful the presentation. And I think you touched upon a right point about front end and back end, not in sync with each other, where front end is going very fast in terms of digitization, whereas there's a lot to catch up in terms of back end digitization, which is basically in the factory. I think the information is also very clear in terms of how the efficiency can be enhanced with the digitization. I mean, I think it's all about, even if we're able to increase the efficiency by 10%, and it's a lot of addition to the capacity instead of probably going for a new line. So that was actually quite insightful. And now, from moving from a perspective of a machine builder as a solution provider, perhaps our next panelist, who is actually a very potential user, who also spent a lot of time in executing this in his plant. So let me welcome our next panelist, Mr. Dipen Chakrabarty, who is a mechanical engineer from NIT Durgapur. Mr. Dipen has been in the industry for more than 22 years. He has worked extensively across different FMCGs, HUL, ITC, PepsiCo, McCain Food, Mondelez, and now in Dabur. He was part of large engineering projects and operations in this organization. He is also responsible for technological decision-making and execution of strategic engineering projects across India. He has extensive knowledge of manufacturing infrastructure, assets, excellence programs, and systems, etc. It's my honor to welcome Mr. Dipen Chakrabarty for his remarks. Mr. Dipen Chakrabarty.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishnu. Thanks a lot. Let me just switch on my video, please. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to have a discussion on this. But will I be able to share my screen?
Yes. Yeah. I think we should. Yeah.
Yeah, just transferring the presenter rights to you, Mr. Chakrabarty. I think now you would have it.
Okay, thank you. So I should, click on my screen, right? While I select that, my screen.
Just click on the share button and then share the content.
Okay. Is the content visible right now?
Yes, it's visible now.
Okay. So thank you very much for inviting me to have to talk on this. Well, I am an end user, as Vishnu put it, and it was very interesting to hear what Mr. Anil Bhatia and Mr. Gopal Bhandari were talking of, and I can't agree more on what they are saying. And I think I can only put across and put forward my viewpoints and my outlook into this whole scenario. So I will quickly get into the few slides. If I may say so, as an end user, these are the 3 points that we generally talk about, or it will help us kind of understand perspective. From the Dabur's point of view, or I think this is true for anybody else. It is good to know where were we earlier, before this kind of a digital revolution that is happening. This is happening, I think, quite for some time. People are talking about Industry 4.0 now for almost few years. It's not something that has just come into, and disruption is something that everybody is talking about. And we know very well that disruption is what is happening every day. So, and if from there, where are we, and eventually where will we be? So these are the 3 basic things that I feel that I should talk about here, and eventually kind of put across my thoughts on where, in what we did, what we are trying to do, and what kind of challenges we are facing, and eventually how I see the future. Now, I don't know how much is this visible to you, all this slide, but if you see, as a plant head or as a manufacturing head, this is where we are. The operations, we do not know where we are in terms of plan. How is my equipment being utilized? What are the bottlenecks that we are facing? As a manager. How are my downtime being placed, etc. So there are many unknowns, I would say, in our manufacturing setup, and which makes it very, very difficult for us to actually kind of take certain decisions, and particularly decisions related to increasing our capacities, or increasing our manufacturing outputs, throughputs, even motivating people. How do we tell people that, how are you performing? There is a difference of opinion. My front end person feels that he is doing his best, while I feel that no, he's not doing the best. And I think this is all because of, as the earlier panelists have continuously said, that is because of the unavailability of the data and the analytics related to that data, which gives us such kind of problematic scenarios, or which gives rise to such dilemma. I think already Mr. Gopal Bhandari has put across the Industry 4.0, industrial revolution, I would say, is 4.0, and this is what is my understanding. I'm sure the panelists, the listeners, of this session, they are all aware about this. Finally, the 4th phase, which is basically the cyber physical systems. What I have understood is basically, from the computers and the data that we are able to identify, that we are able to work with now at this current phase, eventually has to be available across geographies, across persons, across cultures, and influence the outcomes or the actions that we want to take in our existing areas. Now, and I think this Industrial Revolution 4.0 cannot be just thought through, in a very narrow perspective of manufacturing sites. I think it is, as Mr. Bhandari has said, that it has to be thought through in a very broad perspective, like the whole front end, back end, the whole business cycle as such. And I think whoever is understanding this is disrupting more and getting ahead. So, and I think at Dabur, everybody has understood this. I think there's, if not everybody, at least the influencers, the people who do strategy, they are quite aware about this fact. If you ask me, I am as a technical person, as an engineering person, as a person who is responsible for setting up manufacturing plants, creating assets, bringing into technology, I would say, I should, and as the topic of today says, the smart machines or smart packaging solutions. So for me, what is smart? What, as I have understood it, these icons that are being shown are something that are part of it, and the smart machine should be capable of managing complexity. It should be less prone to disruption, as I was continuously saying. When I am smart, then my philosophy or my whatever I'm doing in my area, it should be keeping me safe from the market disruptors, or I should become the disruptor my competition. And obviously, I should be able to manufacture my goods more efficiently. There should be no communication gap, and there should not be any kind of I would say lag between what I am doing and what is actually happening. So as Mr. Bhandari or somebody pointed out that nowadays the machines are creating the output, and then the data is fed into the ERP systems manually, and I think from there onwards the errors start happening. These communication systems or the smart machines should eliminate that, and the data directly from the machine should get into our systems. That is what I feel is smart. And from these point of view, our philosophy and purpose comes in. That is, stay smart, go digital. Now, staying smart means going digital. So smart is, I think, is the softer part, while the digital part is, the hardware part, or the hardcore thing that would help us become smart. And I think I after looking through various, various literature, and also talking to our management, I feel these 4 points of lead, wherein how do we go ahead achieving this purpose. That is by leveraging our existing knowledge from experts like you who are talking about your capabilities, how you can support end users like us. I think leveraging such knowledge instead of creating or going ahead creating the whole wheel, fresh. It is that if it is already available in the market, then why not leverage it? Be efficient in making our businesses more, by automating our business processes through technologies. And then once you do that automation, identify the data, and capture those data, help in deployment of analytics, so that people understand what kind of data is. Just gathering data will not help. It should give us some kind of output. It should get converted into an information, and I think analytics would help. And which again, as everybody of you are doing, you are creating dashboards, bringing up information which is easily understood, or as understood by the companies. Dabur may be understanding their KPIs in a certain way, our competition or somebody else is understanding it their way, and you guys are kind of helping us develop those dashboards, which is basically the analytics that we're looking for. And eventually, finally, the digital savvy workforce. So that is how we feel if we are able to address all these 4 points, is something that we will become smart. And obviously, if you see the other chart, which is basically the triangle wherein from the level 1 to level 4, going through the International Standard for Automation 95 architecture, is how we have thought through in terms of going digital and digitization at Dabur. So, and this is what we feel is our architecture should be. If you see, the first level is the field devices, as I think Mr. Anil Bhatia said, that Emerson is able to provide micromotion, machine automation, etc., which is part of, according to us, is level 1 and 2. Then obviously, the applications and the IoT is where the software comes in, the servers comes in. As you could see, we can, there are companies like Siemens who use MindSphere as a technology in the cloud, or Rockwell has their own premise-based software. So that could be one option, and eventually the machine data starts flowing through these systems, and finally helps us as to put data into the dashboards and help the chief executive officers or the senior management team members to eventually see how each individual factories or assets are performing. So this is how we feel, this is how our architecture is something that we are thinking through. And I think it's not very unique. It's everybody is now doing, and everybody's catching up with this. Just thought to share with you all how, in our, say, for example, toothpaste lines, as Mr. Bhandari was saying, that in the legacy equipments, how certain sensors, or additional instruments could be put up, and then the data collected into gateways, and ultimately analytics used in analytics to come up with dashboards and information. So, if you see, the blue arrows are basically my process flow, and the boxes talk about the equipments that are being, that are installed. Say packing line 1 is a legacy, are very modern equipments, for example, because we do have certain control panels, and then we take the information from there into the PLCs, and then Kepware and ThingsWorks is basically the software which is being used by one of Emerson's competitions, I would say, which is Rockwell. And similarly, in the second option, if you could see the legacy equipments, wherein those circles that you see, the dots that you see in the blue color, are basically the sensors, additional sensors which we put in, which helps us capture data which may not have been, which are not possible into those legacy equipments, PLCs, and then eventually get into a common HMI panel or a common PLC, from where it eventually gets into the cloud. So, and this is again, I think, what we've said, how the data would flow from level 1 and 2 to the next levels, and finally come up with dashboards and web apps and mobile apps. So, but then, when I look at this thing, I feel that it's not only about looking into the dashboards, it's also about real-time updation of data, which in, say, ERP systems and in our other data, resource material planning software, etc. Now, as an end user, these are certain expectations that we kind of have from the machine builders. And before I come into these expectations, I would definitely like to say that I can't agree more with what Mr. Bhandari is saying on the reasons on why the previous slides that we showed, why we kind of take time, in implementing. I think all of those points have been well addressed. First of all, the hesitation on, say, our part, the end users part, or the management part, even the front end people, to actually get exposed, about our weaknesses to the senior management or to the decision makers. Then secondly, obviously, the expensive nature of the whole new technology that is being talked about, in order to make ourselves Industry 4.0 capable. However, the expectation still from, as an end user, if at all we clear all those hurdles, are that your machine should be able to produce higher throughputs with reduced footprints, which Mr. Bhandari agrees that has happened. However, I think he does not agree to this fact that we are progressing into the cyber physical systems, wherein he says that around last 20 years there were very less amount of progress that has happened. Obviously, I agree. I can't agree more than that. We should have systems, and we are looking forward for machines which will have capabilities to connect between machine to machine and between machine to people, to collect the real-time data, give us the analytics. Not only that, and modify our say the planning. For example, now my data planner takes the data from ERP and then plans what has to produce in which machine. which should actually, with the help of data analytics and the capture of data, the planning of those machines should happen automatically. That is something that we look at. Then, which is very important in today's disruptive environment, your machine should be very, very quick and fast to changeovers, because now in packaging particularly, what I foresee would be, with all kinds of modern systems of purchases and buying tendencies through e-commerce, etc., lot of flexibility would be required, and which means that our machine should have capabilities to get into quick changeovers, and obviously it should not be very complicated for the person. Now, if there is a threat which people think that why people are getting afraid to expose their weaknesses, this plug and play capability kind of eliminates that threat. And finally, it should be, as very rightly put up by others, and I think I can't agree more than this, it should be low in capex. Obviously, it should help in standardization across. The timeliness is anyway there. Finally, the other, very important aspect, I think, which is very important from the data management point of view, is about data security. Whatever softwares or whatever technologies that is bringing in must ensure non-invasive IT security, which means my data should be secured. Now, a lot of data would be flowing in from my factories to the cloud or into the internet and then getting into some kind of a software. No breach should happen. There should be enough firewalls and preventive mechanisms to prevent cyber threats, virus attacks, etc. Obviously, the secured access to the critical production data, and the last thing on the networking infrastructure, basically about IT security and data security. Finally, if you see from the packaging point of view, I have just circled the KPIs. As a company, we have decided about a lot of KPIs across our manufacturing, supply chain or manufacturing chain, if I may say so, process flow. And at the final, if you see from this particular discussion's point of view, I think from the packaging point of view, the real-time production visibility is important. The quality dashboard is important. Performance is important. And finally, the traceability of the product that we are producing, both back end and front end, is important. This becomes the, these are the KPIs that we are looking at. And you can see from other points in the manufacturing, other process points in the manufacturing, the incoming material, transformation into semi-finished goods, or there are various kinds of KPIs that we have thought through. To end my this little talk, I think wherein my perspective or the end user's perspective would end is where ultimately I feel the packaging assets would go like. As everybody's saying, it has to have ability issues. We find last year, I think we saw that the government was extremely serious about removal of plastics, and they are still there. Everything, the packaging material has to be biodegradable, compostable kind of materials, with and e-commerce coming into the whole scenario. The lightweight materials, flexible materials, which will be convenient to use and transport. It should be easy to see. These kind of things would become very important in the packaging material point of view. But if those materials are there, the assets should be able to handle such materials, to manage those materials. As everybody is talking about right now, I think this is one of those forums also. It's undoubtedly the e-commerce that is going to be ruling the roost, particularly in the modern areas, in the city areas. Though, many business leaders are also saying that the traditional stores would not, cannot be going away just now, particularly in countries like India. However, there would be a lot of focus into how the online platforms and e-commerce would evolve, and eventually what would happen is there would be a lot of customized products would be requested by the end consumers, and hence innovation towards specific and specialized types of packages would be focused on. And eventually the machine suppliers will have to understand and help us or work along with us in achieving those. So for example, in order to bring in flexibility, maybe while we give you samples, you have to work with 3D printed samples and then achieve capabilities for the original sample as would be required. And finally, counterfeits, obviously, there would be labels, or there would be tags which will have those RFID labels and smart tags, which will help in track and trace and help in monitoring and reducing counterfeits and fakes. So these are this is something that I feel is key now and going forward. Everybody is catching up, and I'm sure this will be something that will be in vogue for at least in the near term to the long term future. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Dipak Chakraborty. I think you rightly put the perspective from the end user point or the user point, what's the expectation from the user. So I think listening to Mr. Bhandari and you, so at least we have understood that we are on a common platform in terms of what actually can be achieved from this digitization. You also talked about the KPI expectation from the end user point. I think you're bang on that. I think what actually the merchant builder should look at. Another important point you touched upon is the safety for the information, or the security of the information that is shared. I think this is one of the real concern of the users nowadays, because a lot of data being exchanged between the factory and the OEMs. This is something that I think the merchant builders should really look into. And of course, the e-commerce. Of course, this is one more thing that is actually coming up. I mean, the modern trade, so-called modern trade, is actually bringing a lot of changes in packaging technologies, the way things have been packed. Probably it's also shifting the whole supply chain, the way it's being looked at. So, I mean, these are really valid point, Mr. Dipak Chakraborty. I'm sure I think there's a lot of things that we can take away from this discussion. And even the last point we talked about counterfeit, probably I think our next speaker on this panel would be touching upon this counterfeit and holograms and smart labels. And I once again thank you, Mr. Deepan, and let me then welcome Mr. Ankit Gupta, our next speaker for today. Let me quickly introduce Mr. Ankit. Mr. Ankit Gupta is a Director Strategy and Growth at Holistic Group. He's a young and dynamic individual who believes in creating a sustainable long-term impact on society through innovation and technology without compromising on ethical values. He is an alumnus of prestigious Harvard Business School, UCLA Anderson School of Management, and IIM Ahmedabad. He is presently taking care of Holistic Group's diverse business like anti-counterfeiting technologies, packaging, chemicals, real estate, warehouse, etc. And he thinks himself as a portfolio manager who should identify opportunities and let the right person run it. Join me in welcoming Mr. Ankit Gupta. Ankit, please go on.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the warm introduction, and welcome everybody to the CII Smart Packaging Summit. If I can get I've got the right to share. I'll just share. No better way to start actually, because Dipen had made it very easy for me with the KPIs he has shared, especially talking about counterfeiting as one of the issues, which is a KPI for everybody in the market. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Very, very quickly about who we are and what we do. So we are a 30-year-old company who has served about 10,000 odd customers over the last 30 years, solving the problem of counterfeiting fundamentally. We are about 750 people right now and in 12 locations and serving about 90 odd countries. Proud to be a made in India, make in India company and serving globally with 5 manufacturing units. So the different product categories we guys are in is holograms, where we started from, and then over time, as the application of the product evolved, so did our portfolio, our products. So we have holograms, we have smart labels and labels, shrink sleeves, and then we have packaging products like UV packaging, film security pouches, and monocartons. Fundamentally, the problem or the problem statement we're trying to solve is counterfeiting. And as I said, as the product application changed or where it had to be applied changed, so did the kind of products we got into. Also, one thing we realized over our course of dealing with this problem is that counterfeiting typically happens in the supply chain. And because it happens in the supply chain, so supply chain traceability, supply chain management, tracking and tracing the supply chain becomes critical. And as all the learned speakers here and even all the listeners here understand that once you have the data, once you have the data behind the traceability or the SKU movement, then there are a lot of applications which can be built on it, a lot of use cases, a lot of problems can be solved. And that is exactly what we've also been doing. So be it authentication, be it inventory management, where warranty or rewards. Moving forward, in terms of a very, very brief snapshot of counterfeiting. So globally, as it said here, about 85 lakh crores to 100 lakh crores is the level of counterfeiting globally. And it's growing at an insane pace of 10,000 odd % over the last 2 decades. In India itself, 3 to 4% of our GDP is impacted. And as a matter of fact, that's actually 3 to 4% of the global counterfeiting happens because of India, which is an unfortunate reality. And the loss to economy is about 1 trillion rupees. How does it impact us? How does it impact any brand out there? There's a loss of revenue. There's a loss of customer trust, right? The kind of brand image, the effort which goes into anybody creating their own brand, anybody sitting here, anywhere, right? So and the negative impact on the entire supply chain, which it creates, the kind of relationship you have with your supply chain. On the consumer side, it is impacting their health, and which is in line with what, if you can see on the top right, our logo and our tagline, which is authenticating supply chain, securing lives. So because this is how big the impact is of the problem we're talking about. And then we keep hearing and we keep reading about stories about people passing away, unfortunately, because of consumption of counterfeit liquor or other products, FMCG products, or all sorts of products, right? And then there is an impact on government, which is the evasion of taxes, the kind of foreign investments which get lost because of certain impactors like these. And it obviously promotes crime because the kind of people who are dealing with counterfeits are unfortunately people who know they're doing the wrong thing, and they are usually supported by the wrong kind of money, and the money which gets earned is also used in the wrong fashion. Now coming to the real problem and how this pertains to the topic we're here and the panel we're sitting with. So basically, as I said, unfortunate reality of the whole situation is that the genuine product, or rather the ingenuine product, enters the genuine supply chain. What you can see here, you can see a supply chain on the top, which is the green supply chain, which is the genuine supply chain. And then you have the ingenuine or the counterfeit supply chain at the bottom, which is marked in red. You can see how the counterfeit distributor in this particular snapshot actually is able to penetrate the supply chain and enters the genuine supply chain. Now, as we all know, as Industry 4.0, IoT, traceability, all these technologies are becoming more and more front-end and mainstream, the traceability angle becomes utmost critical, because if you do not track and trace the supply chain, then the probability of something like this happening, and hence even a genuine supply chain player, a distributor, or even the retailer might land up selling without knowing a counterfeit product. And the reality is that this happens. So having dealt or having analyzed so many supply chains globally, we know this is a fact. It is said very roughly that 20% of everything in the market is counterfeit. And the implications, as I said, are immense, what I've shown in the previous slide. Moving forward, the solution to this problem, right? Now that we know this is a problem, the solution, the way we have realized and we have dealt with it, is the fact that there are three different aspects of the supply chain of dealing with this problem. So there is one side, which is the physical side, where you are actually putting a hologram using security inks, tag-ins, or scratch of labels, or different kind of physical label or a smart label on the product, right? So this is the step one. The second is that how do you connect it to making it more smart? So this is where the smart packaging starts kicking in, right? So you're connecting it using QR codes, barcodes, or RFID. And then you have the third side, which is the digital side, where you're connecting it using a track and trace, any kind of proprietary software or in-house software, or it could be the blockchain, which is also starting to use. Now, one of the things which I would like to make everybody understand here is the fact that the classical mistakes, rather, which happen as a brand owner, especially, is that you will have different solution providers pitching to you different technologies, what you see on the screen. Please understand that every technology has its pros and cons. So as a brand owner, as a decision maker sitting on the other side, you need to understand the pros and cons of these technologies and combine them to create the right solution, which is what I'm talking about in this slide. So you'll see that there is a product side, which is what you see here, anti-counterfeiting products, and then you have the IT side. So how you have to combine these two technologies or these two sets of technologies ideally to solve the problem. One of the key examples or the simplest examples out there is what we see in currency, right? So in currency, you have 20 plus technologies being used to control counterfeiting. Hence, and the reason we use 20 odd technologies is because every technology has its pros and cons. Now, the reason you're trying to combine these technologies to complicate the problem, and hence you're complicating the problem, and hence it is becoming more difficult for the counterfeiter to counterfeit. The similar thing is happening over here. One other thing I would like to make everybody understand is the ISO 12931, which talks about how you should have these four aspects of technology built into your anti-counterfeiting solution. So there's the overt side, which is the visible security. The second is the covert side, which you need to see under a certain equipment. Third is forensic, for which you need to send the product in the lab for it to be checked. And fourth is digital. This is also the history of holistic, that how we combine different technologies today using holography, using security printing, inks and all that, and combining it with QR codes and barcodes, and then eventually combining it with track and trace software to really solve this problem. Moving forward, you can see a very simple example on the slide, which talks about, which is showing you a very simple label on the left. And that simple label on the left is converted into a smart label combining it with UV ink on one side, combining it with holography on the other side, combining it with a QR code as the fourth element, as the third element, and then there's a heat sensitive control temperature ink used. So by adding these four different elements to an existing label, what you see on your left, you suddenly converted a simple label into a smart label. And this smart label, the probability of this smart label to get counterfeit is exponentially lower than the first one. That's one. And secondly, by using a QR code on the label itself, you have enabled it to connect it to the industry 4.0 or tracking and tracing the supply chain, which solves a lot of different problems. What are the advantages? What are the benefits of doing this? You have obviously the protection and enhancement of the brand equity. Second, increasing sales and profits. So as I said, they say that about 20% of everything in the market is fake, and that number obviously varies from category to category. There are certain categories, unfortunately, which have 50% plus. And hence this this revenue loss to the company, which is a clear revenue loss to the company, results in sales loss as well as profitability loss. The third aspect is that it obviously drives healthy customer relationships, and loyalty and reward programs can be built on the track and tracing, the TNT software and the data you have. The supply chain visibility, inventory optimization, as well as warehouse management. So from the discussions I heard just now, right? So we're talking about so much of automation, Industry 4.0 inside the factory itself for us to be able to manufacture efficiently, right? And one of the two use cases I have personally seen very closely, one is around the whole inventory optimization and warehouse management, where we have multiple thousands of SKUs sitting in the warehouse and there's no proper way to inventorize it. And hence, just by inventorizing it, the kind of inventory optimization which happens suddenly leads to a very high return on investment for this inventory management. The second use case, which we also recently saw with another customer of ours, again a very famous giant actually in the electronic space, is that they had a lot of components. And they have a lot of components, and these components had to be inventorized, because even if they miss one component by mistake to be shipped with the entire set, the cost of shipment, air shipping that one component, was the profitability of almost 100 SKUs. So hence the aspect they were trying to control was that the inventory had to be optimized, and then the QC also had to happen in the right way, because there was one part which could potentially not go through the right QC process. Taking all these examples in mind, you'll realize that there's a clear case of clear case of return on investment, and it is not really an expense, which is unfortunately what we hear in a lot of discussions. I'll just show a short video here, and then we'll just take the presentation forward. Just give me 1 second. Can everybody see my video?
Yeah, we'll able to see.
Raj is a manufacturer struggling to compete with lookalike products.
Can you see? Can you hear the audio also?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
He finds it difficult to track orders and manage customer complaints, and the counterfeiters are busy minting money. Presenting Holistic, your authentication solutions partner, creating customized solutions, solving your counterfeiting problems. With anti-counterfeiting solutions, every product will have a holographic security label with a QR code, which will be part of the authentication process. The secondary packaging and the pallet containing the products will have the holographic security labels too, with the QR code. All the holographic security labels are linked to each other, establishing the parent and child relationship. Now Raj can do the complete inventory management and keep a track of every product dispatched from his manufacturing plant. Once the distributor receives the consignment, he scans and verifies the holographic security label on the pallet, which also shows the quantity and variety of the product in the pallet. Raj gets notified when the distributor scans and verifies the product. After delivering the consignment to Ramaji distributor, a salesperson from Raj Pharmaceuticals collects and scans the check and updates the payment status in the system. Raj gets notified. Now distributor opens the pallets and sends the material to the retailers. A representative from Ramaji distributor delivers the product and updates the delivery status in the system. Raj and Ramaji distributor gets notified. The retailer, upon receiving the goods, scans the holographic security label to authenticate the originality of the product. Raj can know which carton number has been scanned from a particular location. When the product finally reaches the consumer scans the holographic security label on the product to verify if it is original. Raj gets notified and he sends discount coupons and other benefits to the consumer. Raj can also send the loyalty points to the consumers time to time as part of promotional campaign. Now Raj can track every product and ensure that only original products reaches his customers. Raj has successfully integrated business intelligence with his operations. Holistic offers several anti-counterfeiting solutions, including authentication, track and trace, inventory management, payment collection, reward management, marketing or promotional campaign, warranty management, and supply chain management. With its wide range of anti-counterfeiting product offerings, from being a pioneer to being a leader, Holistic has always been at the forefront of fighting the counterfeiting in India and globally.
Hopefully you can see my presentation again.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So just taking it forward from there. So what we've done is that we have the supply chain at the bottom, and from the supply chain, we're integrating our layer, which is the IT, the holistic IT enabled layer, to enable these different modules, which can further be authenticated using the web or the SMS, because which is again still a critical piece in India, considering rural India, where still a WhatsApp may not be the ideal way to authenticate a product. So SMS works. Smart devices and handheld. And then we further combine it with different e-wallets, as well as web hosting and Aadhaar and everything for different kind of use cases, which we see with our customers. Very briefly, I'll just talk about two case studies. So this is one customer of ours in North, which was facing a major counterfeiting issue in their primary product, which was their main product, which was leading to a huge decrease in revenue from the product category to the tune of 20 to 50%. What we suggested to them was a combination of holographic WAD in certain cases, shrink sleeve in certain cases, and combining it to a digital solution of a QR code for authenticating for smartphone users and for SMS in case of non-smartphone users. Now, just by combining these two technologies, we created a clear-cut digital solution for them, a combination of physical and digital, and that led to actually an increase of 250% of revenue in that case. And we keep adding newer technologies and newer SKUs for their different SKUs. This is another use case, very different kind of a problem. A global ink cartridge company, a very famous name, cannot take their name because of NDA. So in their case, what was happening was their empty cartridges were getting refilled, and because their empty cartridges were getting refilled, which was their primary source of profit, they wanted to incentivize the reverse supply chain. Rather, this is the discussion. This was a solution which came about in the discussion, and where we have again done the same thing, where we created a solution for them, which is a combination of a holographic element, a QR code, a scratch label, and a serial number at the bottom. And we've combined it with an e-wallet service, in this case Paytm, where they wanted the person who's submitting the empty cartridge should get some money in their wallet. So the entire reverse supply chain is incentivized in that sense. So this is the other one. I'll just end with this one slide where I'm talking about one of the biggest questions I keep hearing from people is that how do you start, how do you choose a brand protection partner? So one of the 3-4 elements which I would want everybody to know of is that first and foremost, you have to understand that counterfeiting is done by people who are typically aware of the wrongdoing and hence unethical. So you have to be conscious of the player you're taking it from. Is he an ethical player? Very difficult to judge, but there are ways to figure this out. And at least you should be conscious of it, is what I'm suggesting. Second, does he have these technologies in-house or he's sourcing them? Right. So this is the other one, especially security technologies. Third, does he have the right certifications? Certifications in a lot of ways bring that level of authentication and trust to the picture, because at least you will know that this guy is following the right protocol, this company is following the right protocols to follow. And fourth, is he able to provide you the combined solution, or is he able to provide you a piece of the solution, and hence it becomes your problem as a brand to combine them. And fourth, does he have the right legacy or the experience? Just ending it. So some of the customers we have, very happy to have Dabur. Thank you, Dipenji, for the business we do with you and being a proactive partner, a fighter for this problem, and also the kind of certifications and the awards we've won. I'll just end here. Thank you everyone for having me, and I'm obviously here for all the questions. Thank you, Vishnu.
Thank you, Mr. Ankit Gupta. I think it was a good session, and some of the numbers that you mentioned were like, mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Said about 20% of the products available in the market could be counterfeit, and this is something I think as a consumer, everybody has to think about it. And also the way with this smart technologies, with the track and trace or with the counterfeit label, you also explained how the whole supply chain can be integrated, so that the illegal or illegitimate product can be kept away from the supply chain. So thank you once again for this presentation. So we have another, I think, 5 to 6 minutes left. Probably have some questions.
Yes, you can see the questions are in the chat box. I posted 2-3 questions received from the participants.
Okay. So the first question I see is from Rohin Agrawal. It says, how to address security related issues while connecting PLC and machines to corporate network? I think this is something very similar to what Mr. Dipen Chakravarti raised. Perhaps I will address this question to Mr. Gopal Bhandari. So the question is how to address security related issues while connecting PLC and machines to corporate network. Mr. Gopal Bhandari, you're on mute.
So I think using a right platform to get the information and the security certificate, like for example, for every exchange, there is a security certificate which is used. So let's say, your PLC, it is going to a gateway. Then from gateway, the information that goes to the corporate level, a security certificate would be exchanged and the data would be transferred. If it is going to a public IP, then it will be in the HTTPS. So it's a secure environment. And that ensures that the privacy and no data breach occurs. So that is very important. Exchange of certificate or exchange of password. And yeah.
Mr. Anil Bhatia, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, thanks, Vishnu. I would definitely like to add. See, for any system, to be cyber secure, I think every organization, when they are trying to connect their machine to the overall corporate network to reap the benefits of digital data exchange, there is to be a cyber security kind of policy and philosophy established upfront. And that is where, when you go with suppliers of repute, who are in this space, there is a cyber security philosophy we can design for your whole organization how the data exchange will happen. And as Mr. Gopal said, obviously there is a certificate exchange, but even in addition to that, there is a whole philosophy to be agreed. Because today, in today's world, there is a lot of persona-based data going to various individuals across the organization, not just restricted to a CEO level. So I think having a cyber security policy established while you deploy this system will really kind of make sure that your whole data exchange is secure.
Yeah, thank you. So we have maybe next question to Mr. Dipen Chakravarti. So he talked about digitizing your factory. So could you please tell about some of the major challenges you had to face while implementing this digitization?
The main challenges, there are at various levels you face challenges. First of all, we have to decide or what should be the scope, how much we will do. So whether we, for example, in one of our factories, which is a very key factory, we have almost 30 lines, backing lines, and then accordingly we also have the equal gamut of manufacturing lines. So it is important to understand whether we do the whole of it or some of it. And even if we do whole of it in one unit, then do we do it across other units also? What should be the timelines, etc. So this is something that's one challenge that we face. And second challenge is, if I zero in on a factory, wherein I feel that this is has to be done, then the manpower and their skill sets are a very key category. So mapping the whole manufacturing setup in about the capabilities, in terms of digitization. So we'll have to identify where each line is at what stage of digital in terms of digitization. If I say in level 1 or level 3 or level 4, so that mapping is important, and that is where we face challenge. So obviously the third challenge is again, uh, how our people would be made digital savvy or digital aware. Digital, just me giving them advanced system or technology will not help, because they, at the end of the day, they have to execute it and they have to understand it. Though nowadays it is becoming a bit easier because people have understood, they themselves are using smartphones and a lot of digital equipment for their personal use. And obviously, when it comes to professional things, their workplaces, people are facing less, I would say, hurdles and resistance to do that particular thing. So that is the third thing. And obviously, because of our legacy, we are a 130-year-old company. As it was being discussed, that we have a lot of legacy equipments, and then we also have very modern equipment. So there is a whole range of equipments that we have in our factories. How to integrate each one of them and then ensure that the data that we want is obtained. So these are the challenges that we are still facing. As far as if I consider myself as a boundary line, then me and my below me, what are the kind of issues which are under my control, I can influence to a certain extent. But then if you see at the larger end, for me, another thing is to convince the senior management on the scope of implementation, on the kind of investment that we are talking of. And because eventually it has to be paid off by the benefits, then we have to start monitoring those benefits. So we have now decided that there would be a cross-functional team from the center who would monitor this, which would be kind of overlooked and overseen by somebody from the finance team, to see whether the investments are actually giving the returns as I'm, say, for example, I'm claiming as part of the technical team proposing this kind of digitization. So these are the challenges that we face. And for example, as Mr. Ankit was talking about the companies, the counterfeit, etc. We also have that kind of a threat for our products, because if you see our hair oils, our toothpaste are products which are not very, very unique or niche, but then obviously our brand image is very important. And but then our products again have to be made cost effective. So adding in such kind of technologies means, that cost benefit, that struggle remains. So that's the kind of challenge that we face. I did mute.
Oh, sorry. No, I am. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So as you rightly pointed out, Mr. Dipen, is ROI is actually the critical factor in most of the case. But I'm sure with every percentage of improvement in the efficiency, probably this can be worked out. It's only about how we actually finally able to justify. And it's finally end up there is a lot of data coming from all the machines. How this data can be converted into kind of analytics, which can be used as a useful information at the end of the day for any management decision. I think that's the most critical part. So
I would just like to just say one more point. To be very honest, we found as end users there are many people who are now talking about such advanced technologies and how they can support us, and everybody has their own
vision and their way of bringing it in. So for example, a entry dashboard, where the data would be entered. There are certain data which has to be entered by the operator at their level. Now, even to decide on such dashboards, how that dashboard should look like is a challenge, and there will be difference of opinion. Even aesthetics come into play. Sometimes people just say that this key is not looking good, for entry, for the data to be entered. Somebody is saying that a push, the descriptions are all there in terms of keys, and you just have to push it in the touch screen, and it will get loaded, into the data. But then people are again apprehensive. Nay, I will not like to do that because I can, by mistake, I do it. So there are lots of such things, at the time of conception, at the time of execution, and then eventually sustaining and monitoring how the benefits would come, whether the benefits are coming at all.
Right. Totally agree with that, Mr. Dipen. Thanks for that. I think we are probably crossing the time limit that we have. It's already taken 4 minutes extra. I think with this, probably we can try to conclude. This has been a very insightful discussion from industry experts from different categories. We discussed about industry 4.0, probably also on the counterfeit, and as a whole system, how the digitization can help in terms of either increasing the efficiency or productivity, and at the same time probably also reducing the counterfeit in the market. With that, Mark, I would like to thank all the panelists being here and making this session a very informative one. I think from here probably I'll pass on the mic to our next session moderator, Dr. Jitendra K. Das.